right, FedSmart Q&A. You've got questions, we've got
Answers. And no, it's not
answers.
Christmas for those watching,
Yeah,
even though
for
we
those who
feel
can see,
festive.
we need to start like sending each other memos ahead of time for the people that actually are brave enough to watch us on YouTube and Facebook where you see the videos.
Yeah, we need to color coordinate a little better
Yeah,
here. This is
he's got
embarrassing.
he's got red, I've got green. But you know what? My wife loves Christmas and wishes it was Christmas year round. So I'll send her this episode and she'll be really happy. And where we have
And she'll
questions.
sleep good too.
Yeah, we put people to sleep, and that's what
That's
we
right.
do.
Yeah,
You're not responsible if you're listening in the car. Do not be driving vehicles or heavy machinery while listening to FedSmart. There's our
that's right.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
But you actually might stay awake for this one because we've got some really good questions that we've been submitted. If you guys ever have questions, you want the question answered, we'll text you or email you, not text you, email you back or message you. That's the word I was looking for on Facebook and things like that. And we'll be able to get you an answer. But then we'll also, if we're getting a question a lot, we'll put it on our FedSmart Q&A and get it out to the masses. And we've had, I mean, a lot of really, really good questions the last week and a half come through. So we've picked the top three, and it'll be a quick 10-minute pleasant educational conversation. And we picked three questions that we think everybody should know about. They're not specific to one person's situation. So last week we did the topic of TSP withdrawals. So we had a pretty good amount of questions come through about TSP withdrawals. And one of them in particular was talking about the rule of 55, which was asking us if I turn 55 later that year, am I still able to access my TSP penalty free? And what they're asking, for those of you who don't know, most retirement accounts, you do have to wait till 59 and a half or older, like your individual IRAs and so on and so forth, to access without paying an additional 10% penalty touching your money. The TSP has a rule of 55, it's called, where you're able to pull from your TSP without that penalty if you're retiring the year you're turning 55 or older. So the short answer to your question is yes. If you're turning 55 later that calendar year, they go by calendar years. So if I'm retiring, Stephen, January of 2027, and in later 2027, I'm turning 55, you've met the rule of 55. So if you're 55 or older, you can access the TSP, the traditional TSP, without penalty. Now, the Roth, you do want to wait till you're 59 and a half or older and you've had 5 or more years of service, or not service, excuse me, 5 or more years of contributing to the Roth to access the Roth penalty free. So let me say that again, or tax free. So if you're 59 and a half or older and you've been contributing to the Roth 5 or more years, you have to meet both. Then you get also the gains tax free. So you're able to pull from the Roth tax free when you've met those two qualifications, not 55. Even though there is the rule of 55, that's for the traditional TSP. So, yes, great question. Unlike a lot of retirement accounts, you can touch the TSP. We're going to get a lot of follow-up questions, so I'll answer that real quick. It's you have to actually be separating that year, Stephen. It's not you separated at 54, last year, and now I've reached 55. I can use the rule of 55. No, the key is you're separating the year you turned 55 or older to access it penalty free. So that's that one. The rule of 55 is the short answer to that question. The next one that we had somebody say, how do I ensure that my spouse or my survivor has access to the health insurance even if I pass away in retirement? Stephen, address that one for us.
Well, the first thing is you have to be qualified to keep your health benefits into retirement. So you have to have it the immediate 5 years before your separation date. You also need to go out on an immediate retirement or like a early retirement that qualifies you to keep your health benefits. And then the last component is you have to choose a survivor benefit. There's basically three options that they're going to ask you on your retirement application. One of them is no survivor benefit. So really, I guess there's two options. You have the full survivor, costs 10% of your pension each month, leaves your spouse half your pension if something happens to you. But again, they could stay on your health benefits. The other one is the reduced survivor benefit. It's half the cost, only costs 5% of your pension each month, leaves your spouse 25%. But again, they could stay on your health benefits. So you just have to elect one of those survivor benefits, and you have to be qualified to keep your health benefits into retirement.
Yep, it's nice. So even if something happens to you, your spouse can continue the health insurance. And if you're asking, well, what if it isn't my spouse? What if it's my adult children or something like that? There's something called insurable interest that you can look into. We're not going to go through. There's some
It's pretty
different.
loaded, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in insurable interest. Since we're doing the Q&A session, we won't go all into that, but there are some ways to cover somebody who isn't your spouse, but it can be financially maybe not worth it because depending upon how much younger they are than you, I mean, it
Be
could really
expensive.
yeah, it can be very expensive for you to leave no financial benefit for them and just access to the health insurance. It may not make sense. So yes, you can cover, but it's usually most efficient to be covering a spouse with a survivor benefit, but look into something called insurable interest. But exactly right, Stephen. Great detail on that. That's how you keep your health insurance, and then your spouse can keep it if something happens to you in retirement as well. Another question that we got a couple times the last couple weeks, so I wanted to address it because it's a great question, is now I'm 65 or older and I'm still working. Do I want to add Medicare Part B or do I have to? We've got that worded that way a couple times. Well, if you're still working and you have creditable coverage, you have coverage through work, or if you're married and your spouse is still working and you're covered under their coverage. So if you're covering a spouse, you're a federal employee and they're 65 or older and you're still working and covering them, you do not have to get Part B. You can wait to get Part B when you separate, and you will not pay a penalty. So if you don't get Part B, and let's say you turn 65, you want to get Part A because there's no cost for it. Well, the cost has already been paid, I should say. You've paid for it with your Medicare taxes all these years. There's no additional cost. Medicare Part A will kick in when you're 65 and you're still working. No reason not to elect that. That covers hospitalization and can really help with some of the catastrophic coverages and will work with your Medicare, with your FEHB. That Medicare Part A will work with your FEHB. Then Medicare Part B, there's an additional monthly cost for that, and that covers doctor's visits and outpatient care. Now, the reason we get this question, for those of you who don't know, is usually if you wait to get Part B, there's a penalty. If you turn 65 and you're not working and you wait to get Part B, you decide that's not the way you want to go and you try to get it later, you can pay a pretty hefty penalty. But you won't pay that penalty if you're still working at 65 and you don't want to get Part B yet. You could add it while you're still working if you want, but you can wait to get it. You'll have a special enrollment period from the time that you separate. You'll be able to elect Part B as well without paying a penalty for not getting it when you were first eligible, but you were still working. So the short answer to that, do I have to get Part B when I'm still working? No, you don't have to get Part B. You can elect that in retirement when you separate, and you will not pay a penalty if you meet the qualifications. If you just want to double check and you're not sure, reach out to Medicare. They'll be able to confirm that for you and let you know when you might want to elect it. But nope, you or your spouse, if you're still working and you have the health insurance and your spouse turns 65 or you do, you can wait on Part B without a penalty later on. So that's the three answers. FedSmart, you've got questions. Those are our answers. And we look forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks on our next episode. We'll have another topic, and then shortly after that, we'll have another Q&A. So keep submitting your questions. You can find us on all channels. If you Google FedSmart Podcast, we're everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the podcast channels. So follow us there. If you need assistance with your specific retirement, go to fedsmartretirement.com, click on the book, and you can book an appointment with us and we can get your specific answers. We can take all this general information of all these podcasts make it specific to you at FedSmartRetirement.com. If you meet the qualifications to be able to speak with us, we have to concentrate on people, that are retiring or retired, because we got a lot of people, a lot of people retiring. And so we're here to help. And like I said,
We still have other free resources though.
Yeah.
Federalretirementcourse.com, tspcourse.com. Those will answer a lot of your questions as well.
Yeah, those are, if I do say so myself, pretty fantastic resources that took a long time to create. Like Steven said, are fantastic. So share them with all of your friends. Follow us on YouTube if you don't yet. We're just past 95,000 followers last week. So follow us on YouTube. We appreciate our FedSmart community so much, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
FedSmart Podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice or tax advice. FedSmart Podcast is not affiliated with any government agency or OPM. Jesse Black and Steven Puckett offer advisory services through Integrity Wealth. Integrity Wealth and FedSmart are not affiliated. If you'd like an appointment, please go to FedSmartRetirement.com and schedule a free one-on-one appointment. Thank you.